The word from Ukraine this morning is Russian shelling and missile strikes continue to target civilian infrastructure in various parts of Ukraine overnight. Let's check in with Joseph Lindsley and find out what's going on at the moment. Hello, Joseph.
Hey, Bob. Good afternoon from Lviv. It's a snowy day here. It's the first day of snow we've had here in the city and other cities throughout Ukraine. And these medieval cobbled streets are beautiful in the snow. I was running on the High Castle. It's a hilltop overlooking the city today. And a reminder of the last time I really remember snow here was that innocent time from last January and February before the war. And it's a weird thing in your mind to think about, what has happened since and how time has paused. But despite the beauty of seeing the snow today, we also had, once again, infrastructure attacks throughout Ukraine, not as massive as we saw 2 days ago. But there's the concern and the fear. And especially as, on a cold, snowy day like today, realizing that this is just the beginning of Ukrainian winter, which usually is quite long and extremely cold. And we had just a few moments ago here where I am in Lviv, the power snapped out briefly. So if I disappear, that's why, I would say. And there are plans rolling blackouts here in the city of Lviv, every sector of the city at different times for 4 hours. Twice today will not have power. And this is in order to conserve power. But we also had attacks in Kyiv and in Dnipro and many other cities throughout Ukraine this morning. And for example, in the city of Dnipro, which is that great industrial city in southern Ukraine on the Dnipro River, the reports indicate that the Russian missiles hit the Pivden-Mash missile facility, which actually dates back to Soviet times. Dnipro was a closed city during the time of the Soviet Union. They made spacecraft and missiles there, but now it's very important, obviously, for Ukraine's fight against Russia. But the Russians know where these places are because they used to have control of them. And so that's a big concern. And also in the city of Dnipro, a gas production facility was also hit. Meanwhile, at least 4 civilians were injured, including a 15-year-old girl. It's sort of the standard thing that happens almost every day throughout Ukraine. And we have, let's see what I'm looking right now to see the latest from Kyiv. The missile defense generally has been working fairly well. And this is also, what happened in Poland, whatever landed in Poland remains a big topic. But from Canada, even to Germany, many Western leaders are saying that it's not Ukraine's fault. Ukraine got hit by 90 missiles that day, and the air defense does its best. And this is another reason why, Russia's war on Ukraine matters, not just for Ukraine, but, war can, literally can spill over into other countries. And yet another reason why Ukrainians and allies are saying you have to stop Russia.
Joe, it's such a split-screen picture you paint for us of life over there, snow on beautiful cobblestone streets, and then the horrors of war. And you continue to hear the stories of brave Ukrainian fighters, don't you?
Yeah, for example, yesterday I met with a great Ukrainian friend who I had not seen since April, and he was an IT guy, but then February 24th, decided he had to become a warrior. And so he left his company in the hands of the women on their team because they could go to Europe and keep the business going, and he went to fight. And so I saw him yesterday for the first time since then and heard, horrible stories that I can't even, most of which I can't yet share publicly. But he told me the story of one of his close friends, Dima Fialka. Dima was a 39-year-old Jewish Israeli Ukrainian. He came from the city of Beersheba, south of Jerusalem. I know, WGN will be going on a trip to Israel next year. So this guy Dima, he, like many Israelis, has deep Ukrainian connections. And Golda Meir, the only female prime minister of Israel, came from Kyiv, by the way. Anyway, so Dima, in 2015, his grandmother living in Ukraine was sick. He came here to care for her. He fell in love. He got married. He became a soccer coach here in Lviv, and soccer was his passion. And then on February 24th, he decided to fight for Ukraine. And the Russians killed him. And I heard the details of the story, which I can't share, but it was quite awful. My friend was only a few hundred yards away, and they killed him in September. And they refused to give his body for many weeks to Ukraine. Finally, last week, they released the body. And this is another example, of how people from around the world are working together with the Ukrainians, but also how ridiculous, Russia, Putin's narrative is, that it's, I'll put it this way, because I don't even like to quote Putin's narrative, but, this is a very tolerant country with, Jews and Muslims and Christians fighting together here for peace. And interestingly, the restaurant where I met my friend and he told me the story, it's a new place in Lviv's Jewish quarter, and it's called Shalom, which is a Hebrew word for peace. And I think they opened that restaurant in this time, as a sign of hope.
Hope, yes. Let's hold on to that. And let me leave you with something positive today, an upbeat text from one of our listeners. Bob, thank you for speaking with Joe in Ukraine every morning. You have lots of Ukrainian American listeners every morning. When Ukraine wins this war, please have a meet and greet with yourself and Joe. We would love to meet him and hear his opinions and stories of Ukraine. Listening to Joe gives us a better connection with what is happening. Slava Ukraini. Isn't that nice? And have you given any thought to what you're going to do after the war, Joe?
Well, Heroyam Slava is a response to Slava Ukraini. No, I haven't, because, this is such an existential fight every day for everyone. But it's nice to have these little glimpses of things that can be in the future. So I would love to, one day return to Chicago, and it'd be great to have, you and some of your team and listeners one day come here to Ukraine.
That's a great thought. Yeah, let's hold that, and we'll talk tomorrow. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Bob.